First and foremost, congratulations. You are in the right room. All of us in this room, I feel it's safe to say, we are all older than Google. We are all older than the internet. So we know a time where information was simply traded by stories from people who were older than us, books, radio, and television. And can anyone think back and remember your first experiences with the internet? What you thought about it, how you used it, how you understood what it actually was.
I was a bit unsure about how reliable those information were. Who uploads that? How can I know that that's true?
Okay, so you were skeptical in the
Yes.
beginning, as I think society is for all of these things. When the newspaper came out, it was a problem. When radio came out, this is going to pull everyone apart. When the TV came out, oh no, it's going to destroy so much because it's going to change the way we operate as human beings. Every advancement in technology always brings fear first, because someone has been sitting in a lab making up something and then poof, it just shows up one day and everything changes. And as human beings, we are programmed to resist change. That's our survival mechanism. If things don't change, I stay alive. If things do change, there's a probability for something to go wrong. Why is it so easy for children to learn another language? I think there's two main reasons. One, children just accept things as they are. Right? That's an apple. No, it's an omena. Right? Okay. It just is, people say things differently. But as we learn language and we're programmed that this is what it's supposed to be, somewhere along the line we start to say, no, that is just an apple, and someone else says it differently, but that still means apple just in their language. So we start to negotiate with reality, that their reality couldn't be that it's just an omena in a different language. The other thing that children do is they are constantly corrected. That's what we do. That's how we train them to fit into our nice little world, where they have accepted being corrected as just a normal part of life. But as an adult, when you get corrected, it's like, hold on, what? I know what I'm saying, I know what I'm doing, all right? So there's a different aspect there where we get a barrier of resistance, we have hesitation. So these two barriers make it difficult for us to adapt to change, while children just change. That's what they do, that's what they're programmed to do, and that's why it's easier for them to accept some of these things that change very often and very quickly. Now when it comes to AI, this, I would argue, is more significant than the internet. And just think for a moment how much you rely on the internet. Think for a moment what your life would be like without the internet. And as if we go back a few minutes, how skeptical we were when it first came and how we didn't need it. And now if we didn't have it, how difficult it would be just to be in a normal part of society. It is essential to so many things that we do. And I don't think anyone here is skeptical of the internet anymore. Now you know that there's good and there's a whole lot of bad, but it's necessary for the way that we live life. AI, just like every other advancement, from newspaper to radio to TV to the internet, AI is coming way faster and way stronger than any of those. And that's why I say congratulations to all of you for being here, because you're not going to leave here as an AI wizard. You're not going to know everything about AI and to be able to go program a bunch of bots and things like that as soon as we walk out of here. But you will have a rational understanding of what to expect and how to be part of the game as it starts, as opposed to catching up later. Because now catching up later is going to be so much more difficult for how fast and how far people are able to go in such a short amount of time. So welcome to Humanizing AI. Now why do we call it Humanizing AI? Because when you hear the phrase AI, and I keep saying AI, you'll hear me say it a bunch today. What does AI mean? What is intelligence? We're saying this is artificial, but we're saying it is a form of intelligence. But what is intelligence? Does anybody want to offer up their explanation of what intelligence is? Ability. Okay? So your ability to do something is your level of intelligence, right? Some might say understanding, my ability to understand something, right? As human beings, we consider ourselves the most intellectual beings on earth. And this is because of one skill set, not just opposable thumbs, but it's our ability to create. Someone created AI, someone created the internet, the TV, the radio, all of these things. Our ability to create is because we attribute it to our intelligence, how we think. If you go look at a bird's nest in Finland, and then a bird's nest in the US, a bird's nest in Brazil, a bird's nest in Kuwait, they're gonna look exactly the same. There's a few different branches, but it's the same setup. No matter how many different variations of birds there are, they all make the same nest. But then you go look at our apartment, our home, our loft, the corner of the street, the back of a van, the different places we choose to live creatively. We can do so much more. That's a very simplistic example, but we are so much more creative in how we experience the world that we live in, while every other creature just kind of lives with the basic programming that they have. So AI is an artificial representation of that intelligence that we have, and it's artificial because it's not real. It is not thinking. It is not creating. It is not working on its own, and you'll understand more as we go throughout this workshop. Any questions? Remember, interrupt me at any time, even if you just have a point you'd like to make, or if anything I say is off-putting to you or you do not understand it. Now, what worries you? We talked about this a little bit, being skeptical of the internet when it first came out. I've listed some of the most common concerns that I've been hearing about what's going on with AI, which are absolutely normal. Does anybody have anything that they do not see on the board that is a concern for them, particularly, and feel free to be as personal as possible. Like, we're in a school, it's about our students. Go.
Accuracy,
right? I didn't write that one, but that's good, right? Accuracy is absolutely a major concern, and again, it depends on what we're trying to pull out of AI for what accuracy really is, because we're going to debate about what's accurate and what is not. Is it a true story? Is it fictional? Is it reality? Is it fake news? Or is it what's really going on? AI cares about none of that, right? When we talk about privacy, what type of information do I put in there? Who gets that information? Where is it going? This is the same bit of concern we have with the internet. Who's putting information there? How accurate is it? If I put my information in there, who has access to it? Who's doing something with it? Where is it going? What does it mean? How can they big brother or control me? Plagiarism is a big one in schools. Super freaked out about that. It's like, this is someone else's work. I did not create this, or I'm just stealing from someone. Jobs, right? AI is not taking anybody's jobs. AI is creating a lot of jobs, but it's not capable of taking jobs. It's changing jobs. And people who use AI will definitely take your job. Okay? AI alone will not take your job, but people using AI will be so much more productive and efficient that one person can turn into 50. It is scary, but at the same time it takes away, like every other advancement, machine press and every revolution we've been through, as they take away old jobs, they create so many new jobs. And that's why you need to sit in a room like this, so you have an understanding, not that you gotta go get a new job, but if you need to understand how your job could potentially change and what you can do to leverage your position.
Okay, I'm doing the job of 50 people, but I get paid more for that.
Oh yeah, skill development. Does it stop my kid from learning to read, to write, to think? Because this thing seems to do so much of the legwork, is it stopping me from getting basic fundamental skills that we've agreed upon as human beings for a long time? That this is what you need to be productive in the world. But I challenge all of you parents to understand the skills that we need to be productive in today's world are not the skills that our children need to be productive in the world that they will live in. They are not the same.
So I had a conversation with a teacher at the conferences the other day, and she was saying to my grade 10, like, you should use AI.
Mm-hmm.
Really? And I
Absolutely.
said, what for? And she said, well, you know, if, for example, he's writing an essay and he has an outline and he wants to know if that's the correct outline or if he wants to give him an outline for it. And I said, is that not like cheating, and will it stop him learning? She said, no, because as long as he takes a look at what it's given him and thinks about what it's showing him and reads it and understands it, then he's still learning. It's just a different way of learning. It's not the teacher showing him how to write an essay, it's AI saying to him, this is how you should structure your essay. And as long as he's taking that in for future, use, then it's okay. So it's just, I think, hard as a parent to get your head around suddenly being told it's okay for them to use AI, because originally it's like, oh, it's plagiarism and it's going to, result in them not doing any work. But actually, if they do it properly, she said they can learn a lot.
And that's what we're here today to do, is to learn how to leverage it properly, how to guide our students, how to guide ourselves, and what is okay and what isn't okay, especially in how they develop their skills, what shows ethics and integrity. I'll tell you this much. When I start to break down to you what AI is actually doing and why it's artificial intelligence, you'll start to understand why it's kind of easy for educators, especially professional educators, to identify, you didn't write this, right? But I have, admittedly so, gotten very good opportunities, and I haven't written a single word. But I'll show you guys what I did, so it's still my voice. And no matter what a child submits, no matter what they do in schoolwork, and we'll get into this later on, if I can have a conversation with them and they show true knowing and understanding, then learning has been accomplished. Doesn't matter if they wrote it or they didn't, they understand, right? So we have to kind of pull ourselves away from our old metrics of how we say, what's the work and how did you develop the skill? The goal is to learn, and if you got to the goal and the goal sticks, we win. Mental health and isolation, these two go together pretty strongly, because my wife, you'll hear about her a lot today. I love her dearly, but she's a great sample piece for a lot of this. She's not so into this, she doesn't really believe in it, that it's a good thing. And we were talking about her grandmother, who is very, very old, very difficult life right now, just for the fact of her mobility, the fact that she is isolated most of the time. And she's like, nobody's gonna want any of these like AI bots and things in their house. And I said, that's interesting, because this woman spends most of her time alone. She's at the end of her days. For me, if that was my situation, give me a robot I can talk to all day that does my dishes and does the laundry and will walk with me and be a companion, and I don't have to worry at all if I'm inconveniencing them whatsoever, anytime, ever. If it turns around and kills me like Terminator, I was already super old. That's just my thought process, right? But when you get to a certain point, it's like, I would much rather have that than the alternative of me just being alone and struggling with the life that I'm living. There'll be trade-off, right? But when this comes to our children, just like gaming, just like the internet, you give them a different way to communicate. You give them a different resource to be able to take their attention, to grab their engagement, and how much of it is a good balance. That's what we are all here to do, figure out what's the balance and how we wrestle with that, and it's constantly changing. because their brains are evolving differently than ours, and it's very difficult for us to imagine. Biases and groupthink. Who puts the stuff in it, right? Who puts the stuff in the internet? Who puts the stuff in the AI that's giving us these responses? It's not, like I said, it's not creating, it's not working on its own. So who's the one behind everything that's putting the information in here so that it can respond to me?
Who controls that and how become the laws? Because with internet came a lot of bank data stolen and now and even money has been stolen along the internet. And where goes the normal rules and regulations?
So that's a whole nother conference. But quickly, you said how money's been stolen. Money's been changed. I used to get a check. I used to have to go cash the check. I used to have paper in my hand. And I just thought the other day, it's like, wow, I haven't touched cash in like 3 years. So I've gotten to the point where I just trust the fact that, hey, I go to work and then I go look on the internet and the numbers change and I'm satisfied. Nothing ever exchanged, nothing happened.
Yeah.
So we have to build in, like I said, that's a whole nother workshop, but that's part of the major concern, especially when people much smarter than me were sitting in rooms saying, holy crap, this is changing everything, and there's so many risks that are coming and that will be involved.
But
So that is a big topic, yes.
I think the way that people look at it now is they say, you've already mentioned security, and that is privacy.
Mhm.
Privacy is equal to security now. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
The laws are coming,
this is something that people are thinking about.
and here's a big difference in that too. The laws are coming, but much like the internet came, we didn't know what was going on. We started using it, downloading MP3s and sending AOL instant messages. This is amazing. And then the laws came a little bit afterwards, and then we're trying to figure it out, and we're figuring it out region by region. And we're kind of in a place where no one's really worried about it. We still know there's bad there, but we rely on it. The difference with this will ultimately end up writing the laws for us. The internet didn't do that, right?
Yeah.
But this will ultimately be it, and then we'll be the ones on the deciding factors like, okay, this is law, this is not, this is good, this is acceptable, and it's not.
So who is doing it? Like,
Yeah, that's.
Many people in Silicon Valley.
is that what it is? Just people sitting in an office, like, plugging in.
Well, we're going to break down what AI is on the
Yeah.
very next slide.
Sorry.
It's not going to point to specifically who is, because I don't know. I don't know exactly who is, but when you understand how they're putting it together, you're understanding how your children can be building some of these systems in the very near future. Right? And then, yeah, the moral efficacy of it, but more than anything, the human experience. The more I let this do the work, how much am I losing who I am as a human being, or what we have come to agree upon is the human experience, right? We talk about ethics, and we're going to get into this quite a few times. Statistically, they started having AI chatbots, and their voices are incredibly realistic and empathetic. Respond for customer service. Astronomically, their customer service was way better, and the response was they were way more empathetic to my needs and paid attention to me. They felt where I was coming from the customers who needed the service, as opposed to the actual human. Meanwhile, AI has no empathy. So how's it doing that? Right? And are we changing the human experience? Because the human desired to feel a certain way, the AI provided it better than another human can. So then do we end up back in isolation? Do we start preferring interactions with this rather than us? Right? This is the fine line that we're walking. I don't have these answers, I have these questions. But these are the things that we need to think about as we move forward. And who are the heavy hitters? So, I haven't checked the history books yet, but OpenAI, ChatGPT, I would say, is the king of the hill right now. And this is the one that kind of opened the floodgates for everyone to have access to this. This is why their platform is called OpenAI, because they wanted it accessible to everyone immediately. not something that was held onto by governments or corporations that call all the shots. They wanted it to be for the public, right? This thing grew exponentially faster than anything else in the world that we have ever seen when it comes to access and downloads, right? Millions upon billions of people downloading it in the first like 24 hours to get access to the power that it has. It changed everything, and it evolved again yesterday. So you guys will all benefit from that greatly, and I will show you and give you a nice wow aha moment. Copilot is owned by Microsoft. Shortly after their rapid success, Microsoft purchased ChatGPT. But much like Instagram, Instagram is owned by Facebook. Facebook was there first. Instagram came out of nowhere, saw a lot of success. Facebook bought it, but it's still Instagram. Microsoft bought OpenAI, but it's still ChatGPT. I don't think that's going anywhere. But now Microsoft has access to everything that they have. So the way Facebook started to change and use a lot of Instagram's features, Microsoft has now released their features, which gives you the power of this paid version for free.
So you pay for ChatGPT, or is there a free version of it?
Okay, there's a bunch of versions, just changed yesterday. So now there's ChatGPT 3.5, there's 3.5 Turbo, there's 4 Pro, there's some of them you pay for, some of them you don't. I'm confused right now. I'm just being honest. Everything that happened in the last 48 hours, I'm confused as to why I'm paying for something right now, but I'm also stuck in this little loop of, if I stop paying, I know I'm gonna lose some features that I'm gonna have access to before everyone else. So now I'm just like, I'm gonna keep paying. I'm gonna figure it out, right?
But Copilot is similar but free.
Yes. And I'll explain the differences in all of these. This is when we'll get our hands-on experience. We all jump into all of these. Okay. And then the pros and cons of each. I do not have pros and cons slides for each of these, but we'll talk about those as you guys are interacting right now. And then Bard. Bard is probably the weakest of the three right now, but it has the biggest potential upside. Bard is Google's direct one, and then they made another one called Gemini. Gemini is ridiculous. It's from Google. And if anyone in here is thinking, okay, startup company, Microsoft, Google. They might seem like they're behind, but watch out. It's Google. The most searched websites in the world, number 1, Google. Number 2, YouTube. Who owns YouTube? Google. So the fact that that's where we spend most of our time and they are in the game, that's going to be something different later on along the line, but right now it's probably the least engaging and fun to use. Question?
Yeah, someone, a student, recommended Poe to me. I don't know what that is. Is it?
Poe was introduced to me yesterday.
Okay.
Poe is something I can't really give you an educated, a very detailed response on right now, but again, it's just another platform, and these things are popping up everywhere because they opened the gate. Lucindia was another one. Claudia is another. Like, there's so many different ones right now. You cannot know them all. You cannot learn them all. That's not the game we're playing today. That's not the game we're playing in general, because the whole goal here is to be successful and to feel empowered about what AI is doing to our world, to our children, and for our own personal lives. And let me ask you this, do you know how to use every application on the internet? So you get the stuff that you know, you get good at it, and the other stuff might infiltrate your life. I'm not telling you which ones to use, but we'll find the ones that work for us or give us an understanding of it. But we need to understand what AI is really. So let me explain what AI actually is and how it works, and hopefully this connects some dots for you. We have what is called what OpenAI built. It's called an LLM. I have gotten this acronym wrong so many times that I might get it wrong right now. But what I remember the last time I heard it is a large language model. So as human beings, we've translated thought into words. And we do it differently. That's why we have a bunch of different languages, right? But we translated those all into words. So this is how our brains work. This is what we think. And then we created the internet. And we shoved all of those words onto this platform. Over and over and over and over again. For decades. The information age. So then, they took these data-based systems of a lot of language and said, why do human beings continue to survive and evolve? Because we are great pattern recognizers. Fire, that's awesome, let me touch it. Wait, I'm not gonna do that anymore. Wait, I can cook with it. Hold on, wait, it keeps me warm. So there's benefits and there's drawbacks. Wait, I can create it out of nothing, right? We recognize patterns and we put things together. This is how we survive, this is how we evolve, this is how we thrive. Patterns are the key to everything. If I want to be successful, I see the pattern before everyone else that's happening. If I cannot recognize the patterns, then I struggle in whatever is happening and someone else is in control. Okay? It's all about patterns. So these large language machines or models, whatever it's called, they take all of our language and they get trained over and over again. What's the pattern? What's the pattern? What's the pattern? Let me prove it to you. You guys are excellent pattern machines. Do we agree? Finish this sentence for me. Mary had a little lamb. Okay? Good job. If I put that into one of these AIs, it's going to say, Mary had a little lamb who sleep with white snow. I didn't ask it a question. I didn't tell it to do anything. I simply gave it a series of words that has been used regularly in a pattern over and over again, and it's trying to complete it and guess what it is that I want as a response. Each one of them will give me a different response, but it will be very similar. Some will say, Mary had a little lamb who sleep was white as snow. The next one will say, Mary had a little lamb whose sleep was white as snow, and carry on with the rest of it, and this was written in 1960, and it'll start breaking everything down and try to give you all type of different information. This one will probably give you a picture. Say, hey, here's the lamb, here's Mary, here's where she was at when she was walking around with her lamb that was sleep was white. It's going to do all kind of crazy stuff, but it's going to try to follow the patterns that we have programmed into it. So whoever creates the large learning model is kind of dictating what these patterns are that it's being learned, that it's being taught. And as it's being taught, just because it's patterns, it's learning how to rearrange patterns differently, because what it's never going to do is try to give you the same answer twice, which means we can all ask the same question and we will all get individual responses. And while they'll be similar, they'll follow different patterns. And that's all AI is doing, is it's trying to rearrange the pattern.
This is why the intellectual property issue is so, like,
Yes.
it's salient, right? It's like all of these writers who are suing ChatGPT for having fed it their books without their permission, and now you can put in ChatGPT, what is an elf, and it will give you the Tolkien definition of an elf and 48 pages of the Silmarillion, like the Silmarillion book series, and it will go in this whole and it's all like plagiarized data, sort of, that like...
I'm guilty, right? If I go on YouTube and I say, hey, break down this book for me, chances are there might be a creator who breaks down that book, and then they might get in trouble for it, or they might get 1 million views. It's so hard to track all of this stuff down to say who actually created it, who gets credit for it. So when you do create things, especially in the future and moving forward, you must have them protected by the agreed upon laws throughout your region and throughout the world. Is it copyrighted? Am I entitled to said information?
Isn't that exactly what humans are doing? They read copyrighted materials and then they build another book about elves.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
If you get someone with a really good memory, you could say, could you please write down that one page?
Yeah.
And then like they'll copy version. I mean, I can quote bits of Hamlet still
of course.
from like years ago.
So
But you're not charging someone a subscription fee to hear you quote bits of Hamlet.
Neither is ChatGPT.
They are if you use ChatGPT
And if
Plus.
I went to hold my own version of Hamlet in a play, then I could charge people.
Well, Hamlet you could, but a play that was written Hamilton you couldn't because there's copyright on it. You can't take those rights.
Yeah, but you have to ask very specifically to copy what the input was.
Of course.
Usually they just generate, which
Yeah.
is what we do as well. We use things as inspiration.
And this is the line that gets blurred. This is a very, very blurry line. So then it questions again, what is the human experience? What do we really create? What are we really entitled to? Question?
Is the bank of information that the LLM is drawing from the same for all three?
Negative.
No, okay.
This is why your children possibly can create one. I can, now that they have the technology and the know-how of how I create one of these models, I can sit down and say, this is the model I want this information to come from, and I want it to be extremely biased or extremely geared towards the outcome that I want, and this is the only thing that we talk about, which means it will be limited in everything else. However, these things are now starting to attach themselves to the internet, which then leads to, is it accurate? Am I pulling something from Wikipedia pages? Or is it real information?
Okay, and how you put your own voice on that?
We're gonna get into that. Okay, I'm guilty, 100%. Friend tells me, hey man, you should check out this book, it's really good. Cool. Hey, Juniper, that's my ChatGPT's name. Hey Juniper, tell me about this book, break it down, give me the key points. 3 seconds. And it hasn't failed for any book yet. It's like,
The authors didn't get paid for that,
Yeah, but
right? ChatGPT is taking money from.
no, ChatGPT is free.
No, they're not all free. Some of them are paid.
but that was a free experience for me.
But now all of
But
those
it's free.
people, instead of buying Christina's book, they're just going to ChatGPT and saying, ChatGPT, can you give me a summary of Christina's book?
So this gets back into
I know, but
summary.
that's my question.
But that-
Are you going to read the book?
But
The book
now-
is
It's
not
not-
different.
Now
not
we're
being
gonna get
system.
into,
You
now
don't
we're gonna
get
get
That's
the
only
into,
what the language model is.
but we're gonna get
No,
into a
it's not.
debate.
Hey guys,
No, it's not.
that for the learning language model that's programmed beforehand, it's not necessarily fed said book, but then it can access what's on the internet.
Right.
And now, outside of my schoolwork and my own personal business, when we talk about growth and what it is to have intellectual property and to move forward, most people just give stuff away anyways, because the information is no longer what is monetized. The book is no longer what is monetized. The person who actually get paid from the book is the person who goes and speaks about the knowledge in the book and how they create it. Now I pay for their time. What is monetized now for the future is attention. What can I get for attention and engagement? So if you write an amazing book and you want it to be read and shared throughout time and leave a legacy, you give it away for free. You provide high value for free up front. So people say, wow, if this was free and it's this amazing, I'm gonna pay this person to see what else they have behind closed doors. And that's the way business models are changing. And it is extremely stressful and difficult because our generation is taught, oh no, I made this, I'm gonna keep it tight. You gotta pay to get it, to look behind this box. Kids don't care. Everything's on YouTube. I'm gonna give you everything. I'm gonna give you all the goods because it's not about you buying what it is I'm giving you. It's about me getting more and more followers, more and more likes, and when anybody sees that engagement, they're gonna leverage the eyeballs I have on me and pay me quite rewardingly to get there. So you're actually getting paid more. I'm not getting a book sale, but because of what the traction that my book got, I'm actually creating more wealth just because I'm the person who
Maybe,
started
but
it.
maybe not. Depends on who you, I mean, it depends on your book, right?
There's winners and losers
Yeah.
in all of it, and that's part of it. So we got to move on. The other part of this, when it comes to the LLM and what it's doing and why this was called ChatGPT, these two words are very significant for everything that's happening. Does anybody know what GPT stands for? Guesses? It's pretty nerdy. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyways, I'm gonna tell you what it means, right? So what does ChatGPT mean? That's the actual thing that the nerds put out first. Generative predictive text. What does that mean? taking patterns. I am generating text, predicting off of your patterns. You guys have been using this, if you're like me, actually for quite a while. When you start typing in your phone and it's saying, hey, here's the next word, or what's the next suggestion, it's trying to predict the next pattern that normally comes. Now, we just blew it out of the water. Instead of normal sentences, the LLM took it to a whole nother level. Okay? Who's gonna leave here and remember generative predictive text? It sucks, right? So, Coach Stokes put a different framework on it. I like to look at it like this. It's a gifted pattern trainer. That's all it's doing is training different patterns, and it's learning from the patterns, and that's why they always ask, is this a good response or a bad response? Is this a nice one? You like this? How can we change it? Because it's just taking that feedback over and over again, saying good pattern, bad pattern, and evolving from that. Well, I'm not done. I think it's a great parlor trick, right? You ever seen somebody walk into a room, do that magic trick where they remember everyone's name in the last 30 seconds? All they're doing is giving themselves a platform, a pattern on how to remember everything that I'm going to say. And then we see this magic. And people see ChatGPT as magic. Like, holy crap, I just asked it to do something and it did exactly what I wanted better than anything else. But it's just a trick. It's not learning, it's not thinking, it's not empathetic. It's just a trick of patterns. And we are so predictable as human beings, and we gave them the playbook, that it's easy to predict those patterns. Still not done. I think it's a gateway productivity tool. Because we are humans who are heavily relied upon patterns, when I need to get to something successful, when I am working on a report and I need an outline, there's a pattern that the teachers are asking me for. Now, do I need to waste my time trying to figure out and learn that pattern, or do I need to get to the information? So does it help accelerate the productivity that I produce? I don't know what to cook tonight, but we eat. That's a pattern, right? We have ingredients. That's a pattern. So I can literally take a picture and say, hey, here's what's in my pantry. Give me something I can make in 15 minutes that these kids are going to eat. It'll break it down and give me a pattern of different options of what I can cook, how I can cook it, what I need to do. So it does increase productivity. I'm still not done. Game-changing personal trainer. And when I say personal trainer and I put a coach there, I'm coach, right? I've been a personal trainer for very many years. What does a personal trainer do? At the end of the day, a glorified babysitter. Most people know what to do, but they need someone to hold their hand, or they need them to organize what it is that they know in a better way so they're more efficient and more effective. It's not that the trainer helps you get to your results. You got to do the work. And if you're using AI properly, you have to do the work. If your students are using it properly, they have to do the work. This just helps you organize that work much better, in a much more efficient way. And we're talking in general ways, but it also works as a personal trainer. Hey, I don't know what to do at the gym today. Tell me what to do. I want to work on this. And it'll give you sets and reps because all of that stuff, they're just patterns. Okay. Here's what it isn't. This is what AI is not doing. It does not know everything. It knows what we program in the LLM. It knows the language. That's what it really does know. It knows languages really well, right? So it can help you with languages. I'll show you my experience in trying to practice Finnish, which is not an easy language, but using the AI. It is not self-aware. It's not omniscient. It is not reliant on itself. It has to use the machine and what we program into it. So no Terminator is not happening today or tomorrow or in the near future. It is not unbiased because someone is programming it, because someone is creating those LLMs, because we do put the information onto the internet. It can be biased as the output that it gives or that it won't give, right? You can ask it certain things, completely ethical, but the manner and the words, the patterns that you use to give it, it will tell you, no, I cannot answer that. My programming won't allow me to do that. And then you change one word, ask the same exact question, and then it'll answer it because the pattern has been changed. So that's a bias based on the programming. It's not intuitive. It's not going to guess and think like we do as human beings. It can look at your facial expression. It can look at different things now because those are still patterns, right? Like when a detective sits inside of an interrogation room and they're analyzing the person, we've literally documented the patterns. When they stutter, when they look away, when their eye twitches, Certain things like this means that you are lying. If we can recognize the pattern and we can write the pattern down, it can mimic that pattern artificially based on the data that we give it. It's all just data. It's not intuitive. It's not 100% accurate. Again, it's based off of the bias of the information that's put inside of it. But it might be accurate for you, that does not mean it is factual. Okay? If it gives you a recipe, the recipe might work. It might not work, but it does not mean it's 100% accurate. Like I said, statistically, people thought it was way more empathetic, and it was effective at being empathetic. It's just better at recognizing the pattern that people are looking for when they want to receive empathy. It has no emotions, it has no feelings. And it is not creative.
So if it's not necessarily unbiased or accurate, when, for example, kids are maybe asking it for an outline of something or asking it a question about a report they're writing, like, is it just good practice to then fact check that somewhere else? Is it accurate enough that you, or could it be really biased and give you completely skewed information?
Depends on the experience.
Is ChatGPT, like GPT, better than others in terms of being a bit more like?
It's better at giving you a good pattern, right? But then you determine what good is. And one of the big takeaways from today, input determines output. And I'm gonna teach you guys how to put really amazing inputs in that make you feel like you're getting the best pattern you can get and that it's really speaking to you and giving you the information that you desire. Accuracy is different, okay? I can argue 2 + 2 = 4. And we will all agree upon that, right? This is going to agree the same way because it's a pattern. And it's something that's been proven over and over again. But someone else might really believe that it's not 4. It's 4 individual ones, or it's 1 4 times. They might want to say it differently, so they can give it to me where it's still correct, but in a different pattern. The information that we're talking about, fact checking, usually you want to put facts in it, and then it reorganizes those facts in a different pattern to evolve your understanding. You do not go here to go grab facts. That's what you shouldn't be doing.
It's an organization tool.
Exactly, much more so. I don't tell people, the first thing I usually say is don't ask questions. If you go in and you ask a question, it's simplistic and you're using it wrong. You're not gonna get the real experience, right? It does not mean you cannot ask a question or eventually get to a question, but do not start by asking a question. And we're gonna dive into that as I really show you guys how it works. Yes?
About creativity. If I throw a prompt into something like Mid-Journey or DALL-E, then I will get a picture which is a sort of combination of pixels that's never been seen before.
Yes.
So that to me seems creative. Why is it not creative?
Because creation comes from, that's the essence of being a human being, in my opinion, right? Our ability to create, to have a thought that came from, maybe it was influence, maybe not, but thoughts become things. And those things are things that I create. The data that this has, as you just said, is compiling it from different areas. So its creation is inauthentic because it did not come with it from scratch. It used other data points to say, oh, this is how a dog should look. And it's made to make nothing look the same, so you never get the same results twice. So because of that programming, it's made to give you the illusion that it is created. Half of this, or half, 99% of this presentation was created by AI, but it required my prompt first. For us to create, we don't necessarily need a prompt. That's our superpower.
So it's a bit like it's
This
a tool,
needs
which a bit like Adobe Illustrator or something which you use on Photoshop.
Well,
Except
it increases the productivity.
Being
So if
fast.
I'm creative, it all depends on your prompt, right? If I give it a prompt, show me a dog. It's gonna show me a dog and a dog and a dog and a dog. The dogs aren't creative and pictures of dogs aren't creative. But if I give it a different prompt, which we're gonna get into, and prompting is a key word for those of you who don't know what prompting is, don't worry, we'll get there. But if I give it a great, juicy prompt that gives it finite detail, it's gonna give me a better pattern of what I want, and then the creation that comes out of that will be much more in line with what I want. It'll look a lot better. However, it didn't create that. It just tried to understand a pattern a little bit differently. So it requires the prompt. If it was creative, it would do it without the prompt. And that's why it's not omniscient and it's not working on its own. Okay.
Tell it to create prompts.
Which you actually can. That's a pro tip. Stole one of my pro tips. But we suck at asking questions, and that's why I say don't ask questions when you come out in the beginning. So one of the best prompts you can use is say, hey, this is what I want to do. I don't know how to do it. Tell me which prompt to give you so that I get the best result. And then it'll give you a prompt. Okay, use that prompt. And you'll get much better results. Absolutely. Good thinking. So everyone here, I'm assuming, is a parent. You have a student at the school. This is just a very sugar-coated way of the attitude I adopt with my children. And my children are even resistant to it. I'm like, my daughter, she's at camp right now, and they have to study at her camp. She called me crying last night. I didn't finish reading my book. I didn't finish reading the pages. Like, are you going to fail the test? Like, who cares? You're having an experience right now. Relax. She's like, no, but I didn't have time to read it, and the test is the next. I'm like, when you get home, we're going to take a few pictures of the pages, and we're going to tell the AI to break it down for us with the key points. And the key point of that is, are we going to understand what was in the book? Right? We didn't have to pay for the book. The information was there. It was already ours to use. We reorganized it. And now I have to be efficient with her time constraint and her other commitments. Like, no, we're going to do it this way so we can be more productive in a short amount of time. And you're not crying because you don't have more time to sit down and read word by word. We're going to break that down. Knowing it's not 100% accurate, but since I am giving it all the input, it will be in the upper 90th percentile of being accurate. And if she comes home with a grade that's in that 90 percentiles, no one's going to be upset. Right? And more importantly, does she learn the information? So engage and explore. Let your kids use these things, but sit down with them, go through it. One of my favorite things to do is magical. Sit down with my 4-year-old and say, hey, Disney sucks right now. Don't like the storylines, don't like the plots, don't believe in happily ever after. It's happily sometimes. Sometimes life is difficult. It's rough. So I'm still talking to a 4-year-old. What do you want to talk about tonight? Ninjas. Dragons. Cool. Hey, we're going to write a bedtime story about ninjas and dragons, but at the same time, this kid's going to have to learn some financial literacy, so sprinkle some of that in there for me. And give me a bedtime story. I don't have a lot of time. Keep it under 3 minutes. And it'll write the story based on the patterns. Awesome. Now he's listening to this thing read the story. If I don't feel like reading it, now create a picture to encapsulate exactly what you said in that story, so he has something that we can color tomorrow, make it a coloring book page, or just fill it all out so he can see the image before he goes to sleep. That's engagement. That's creativity on my part with the assistance of a productivity tool to help my kid get a new story all the time, and a story that they're involved in, that they control part of it. And the story's not always good, of course not. It's like, hey, this story sucks. Let's beef it up. Add some humor in there. And then my daughter always comes in and says, yeah, we need an elephant wiping his butt across the floor. Don't know why, but they want that in there. And they squeeze it in there in a way that actually makes sense because of the patterns of, I want to complete a story. Right?
Just
So,
one question for the previous example. You say the other would have the copy and have the keywords for those things, the key thoughts. She would reach that same idea as the chat gave to her if she has read the own words.
we hope so. I mean, it's just information. It's how we organize or reorganize the information, but the whole point of it is, did you learn or did you evolve? Did you have a deeper sense of knowing?
I feel like
After
giving
engagement.
straight away the answer instead that she reached that answer.
Okay, but now we're talking about processes, right? If I just read something and I have a takeaway from it, again, you're right, you can argue it. Am I taking away the skill of learning how to read?
You and I understand the same thing for the same text, you know?
Yeah. We all interpret things differently, and it'll be more effective in different ways, right? So this creates a different form of accessibility. Okay, I tried to learn it that way, that's not working, give me a new pattern. Give me a different way to learn this information. No, I want you to read every single word. Actually, let me take this little blurb that you gave me and now write 10 pages on it. I want a more in-depth understanding, so you can go in reverse as well. Set standards, okay? If you have a grasp of how the AI is actually working, you can better inform your children on how it's working and what it's doing, kill some of the misconceived notions, but then you can also help them understand this is how we use it. And we can revisit this conversation for different times. We're open for that because we are engaging and we are exploring, but this is how we use it. This is what's okay. This is what's not okay. Do not go in there, take a picture of your textbook, copy and paste it, and say that's your work. Okay? That type of stuff is not okay. Plus, the teacher knows. Like, it's really simple. Okay? So you'll have different ways, different standards that you'll have to set. I don't have a standard. Maybe I should create like a book of AI standards for parents and for different grade levels. We'll get there. Right now, let's just get to today's workshop. And then have fun. Like I said, like doing the kid story, it's so much fun to do that. Or to sit there and let them talk with it and interact with it in ways that they can be creative and see their creations come to life almost instantaneously. And that's what our kids are really addicted to, because we live in this social media age where we get instant gratification. We used to turn in a test paper, and then the teacher had to go home and read every single question, grade it, and then give it back to us days later. We had to wait, which is a good skill as well. But they're addicted to, hey, I did a video, and I hit post, and now the whole world can see it, and I'm waiting for instant feedback. Who likes it, who has a comment, who's saying something. I want instant feedback on what I put out there. There's a big benefit to that. There's a huge dopamine hit to that. But we also have to remember to be mindful and learn patience as well. But AI is not necessarily about patience. AI and education. What's the good? What's the bad? What are the facts? What's the future that we should be looking forward to? The good, personalized learning. In Los Angeles, they just released another platform called Ed. Ed will be a personalized assistant for every child, every student in the LA County District that will literally be programmed as their LLM for that child in their life. So, hey, I'm hungry and I'm home alone, what can I do? Here are some places close to you where you can go grab something to eat, or here's what you can cook with in your house. Hey, it's gonna remind you, hey, you need to move because you're gonna be late for your bus right now. And it's just like it having its own little personal trainer, its own little assistant. That's, hey, you got a French test coming up. Maybe we should study these keywords. We know this is gonna be on the test. So just having basically like a little butler in their pocket, essentially following them around, but they're providing that for the entire school district. The time saving of it, like I just explained that situation with my daughter, that she's not gonna have the time to do all of the reading, which happens in these busy lives that we lead. So do we just say, oh, you're gonna fail because you didn't have the time or you didn't plan correctly, or do we have an answer, right? So how do I fix the timing of it? Accessibility. The fact that I can talk to it, I can show it pictures, I can type into it, I can put it in so many different ways. There's so many different free platforms where I can get this question.
But is there a risk that you get lazy, like instead of thinking,
The human experience.
what can I do? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll ask what I should do.
But the laziness is something that we have to be mindful of, but also rethink. If my child is being more efficient in the way that they're getting the results that we desire, is that laziness or is that efficiency? And there's a fine line between there. You have to do the work. You have to give it the input. So if I go to this thing and I give it the correct input to get the desired results, I have to have an understanding of that so I didn't lazily just pass it off. If I want to use it for working out, I can say, give me a routine so I can get thunder calves in like 3 weeks. It's not going to do the calf work for me. It may give me the routine, and I wouldn't call that laziness if I didn't have the information beforehand of how to get what I wanted, but now it gave it to me in a quicker, faster way. I still have to do the work. The kids still have to know the information, and that becomes the responsibility of the educator. When I sit down and have a conversation with the child, when I read their work, do I feel like the child actually understands what they're presenting and studying? So the standardized test starts to lose meaning, because now I'm just repeating patterns, I'm just repeating information instead of actually showing knowing.
It's more like, what if you don't sit down, like for hobbies or like being creative yourself? Because you're constantly on that, asking what to do.
So these things are very enticing, very engaging. That's part of the risk part of it, is that it might suck in. I spent 30 minutes on the way driving to work today just talking to my ChatGPT to be more prepared for today, though. Right? So I was completely immersed and engaged in that experience. This is what happens with gaming and all these other things, and that's why the hottest commodity right now, the thing that sells the most, is attention, because people want to suck your attention as much as possible, and these things are great attention suckers. So as we start paying for it, these will be the ones that go past being billionaires because of how much attention they're able to suck and how much we rely upon them. So that's why we have to set standards. That's why we have to have guidelines for what it is that we do. Interactive learning talking to something and it instantly talking back to you and giving you valuable feedback is amazing. And adaptive teaching methods. We do not all learn the same way, right? Personalized learning is a huge thing when we talk about at the top, and as it adapts to the way that it teaches. When I'm trying to learn Finnish on this thing, I'm just like, I don't like the way you're saying that to me. Tell me something different, and it'll switch quickly. It'll respond to the input that I give it. So imagine your child having that saying, I don't understand. I don't understand. And it's not going to just keep saying the same thing over and over again. It's going to keep trying to find a new pattern to deliver the message. So that's the good part. The bad! Again, we talked about privacy's risks. I'm not going to get into that for the sake of time. We all know it's a risk. Accessibility inequality. When you do got to pay for it, right? Who has the means to get to the biggest and the baddest? What's the greatest LLM? Do I have access to Gemini? I still don't, right? But somebody does. There's an inequality there. Laziness. Is my child no longer thinking critically because this thing is thinking because of it? It's a genuine risk, right? But now we have to think differently. Lack of empathy, again, it can mimic empathy, which can make it more engaging and keep you on there because you think it's really listening to you. It's becoming your therapist, and you lack the awareness to understand, like, I'm talking to a machine. It's just giving me patterns. It doesn't really have true emotion to feel for me because it's incapable. And again, we talked about jobs. We're not going to get back into that, but yeah, it's going to change jobs. The facts we're using it in schools. There are some schools that still resist, and it's like resisting the internet. If you went to a school today and you signed up and they say, we are so against the internet, we don't use that here, might work for your preschooler, right? But when you're in the 12th grade, it's like, come on now, you're not using the internet, like what's going on? Data-driven insights, it's using the information we put in. So when we talk about what's correct or what's factual, if we give the good input and it rearranges those patterns, then the insight is data-driven and it is insightful, and that's why we want to use it. And then we're seeing the success that students are having with it and the things that they are able to create, the amount of productivity they're allowed to have. So that's why schools are like, we got to get on board. We have to. Learns from different interactions. So learn might be the incorrect word, but it is taking the patterns that we give it and it's layering it. And then I give it more patterns, I give it more information. This worked, it didn't work. And as it learns from those interactions, it changes how it teaches and how it responds to us. Diverse curriculum applications. I can go on there right now and say, hey, I'm at an IB school. Boom, it's going to pull up all the information for the IB. I'm working in the MYP. I need to work on a unit plan for this. And it's going to tailor make it straight to that curriculum right now without me necessarily ever giving it any information about what the IB was, depending on the LLM that you're using. And you'll see, if you know about the IB and you do that, you'll say, this is a really good response. Just like I know English, and I say, give me some information on English, and it gives me a really good response. But then one of them is trained merely on Spanish, and I say, give me something in English, and it's using broken English. I'm like, this isn't very good, right? So if I know the IB, then it will be an effective tool for me if I can identify what it's giving me. Increasing investments and buy-in. We're spending money on this. Schools are spending money on this. So I just told you about the LA district and what they're doing. It's huge investments, and wherever the money goes, progression follows. That's what's ruling the land, and that's just the fact of the matter. This is where a lot of financing and future stuff will be going.
Are you teaching kids in this school about this?
I talk about it whenever I go into a classroom, I do talk about it in different ways on how to leverage it so like we're working on a poetry unit in grade 10 right now. And I'm telling them, don't tell this to write the poem, but never have writer's block for a poem if you're not comfortable writing poems, because you can go here and you can start to go through the thought process in the privacy of not feeling vulnerable around someone else that might judge you, or feeling insecure about having to recite a poem in front of people. What are some tips and some tricks? What are some topics I can discuss and get that brain dump out here? Use that. And then as you're going, if you get stuck, hey, I got something that rhymes with cat. I can't think of anything else. Give me some words that rhyme. Use it as a tool to increase your productivity so you don't have an excuse to just be stuck. Right.
Sorry, back to your
Yep.
LLM. So how do you know which is the LLM or the data bank that has that's not biased and has the most accurate?
They're all biased. Someone created them. in my opinion. I don't know how we can create something that's unbiased. Like, it's all to the preference of the creator. So I have no answer for you. I don't know which ones to trust the most. I just know who the heavy players are in the game and who I already trust my data with. So we do get into a bit of groupthink. If we're going to share that with
You put it like an example of Spanish. Is that separated by language? Is that separated by countries? How?
So language gets a little bit crazy on there because I haven't seen one of these that's just programmed on one language. I was just using that thing as a poor example, but some of these are recognizing patterns so well that they're actually teaching themselves other languages. Because languages have some similarities, some have crossover. So and again, language is all just pattern. In the future, it's going to be integrated in more subjects. It's going to augment our learning experiences. We've been discussing that this whole time. Predictive student support. So like I said, the kid running around, not paying attention, I got a test, and then it just jumps in because it knows the time. And it's not just saying, hey, remember you have a test. Now it's saying, hey, remember you have a test in French and we're studying these things. Here's some keywords you should focus on. Here's how we're going to go through it. So it's a completely different learning experience. Yes?
Do you still use Google?
Google Translate?
No, just Google.
search?
To
Yes.
search for information, or do you just focus now on?
Yes, because I don't get facts from here. This might guide me. This is where I want to go for thought exercises and when I want to work something out. If I just need to get to something direct, I'm not going to ask this thing for directions, right? I'm not going to ask it for something where I would ask a very simple straight-on question. And think about what Google is. Google doesn't necessarily give you answers. It gives you breadcrumbs. I Google something and then there's several different results because it doesn't know the straightforward answer. This is trying to actually give you an answer. And as we discussed, this is not 100% factual. So I shouldn't go here for the facts that control my life. And as you all keep alluding to, we really hope the people who build these things are focused on ethical development. We hope, right? We don't have control of that, but it's a hope, right?
So I guess one of the questions is, how do you assess students and make sure that they're understanding?
The educator needs to be knowing
Yeah.
of what it is that they're supposed to understand.
Exactly.
And then you have to have conversation. And this is what we're working on in the poetry unit. Coach Stokes believes communication is the most important thing in the world. That's why the internet is so successful, because it communicated and connected us all like nothing ever did before, right? Some people argue love, religion, or family. None of those exist if we do not communicate, right? I cannot have a religion if I do not pray to something or I don't read some doctrinized book or whatever it is. Those things don't exist without some form of communication. Creativity is the essence of being. So if I am creative in my communication, I show a deep level of existence. It's the whole essence of our being. And think of the most creative communicators in the world. That's who ends up being the richest people in the world, the most powerful people in the world. I use a great example. Donald Trump. Whether you're a fan or not, I don't care. He is a creative communicator who only cares about delivering the message to get the result, right? What we try to teach the children is be creative in your communication, but never lose yourself in that. But you can see clearly from someone like Donald Trump, he's so creative at it, he got all the way to a very high position, being the president of the US, with the way that he communicated. Whether you like it or not, he did that. It was effective. But there's not a lot of him in there or morals in there, because he's going to say whatever he needs to say just to appease, to get the outcome that he wants. So creative communication does determine your success. And now we have this superpower tool to help with our creative communication. It will be used for a lot of good. It's literally teaching airplanes how to drop just a few, I don't know what the metric is for how high they are, but I need to drop or raise a little bit so that I decrease my emissions and decrease the pollution and damage that you're doing to the planet, just by taking the patterns of the data that's being produced up there. So this has the potential to do things, I'm not going to say end the climate change and global warming or anything like that. It's going to give us a lot better information. It's going to give us a lot better patterns and a lot more solutions that we might not just think about or have the time to think about in the time that we have on this earth. Did I go too deep there? The secret sauce. Now I'm going to show you how to use it.